The offseason hype meter ticks up a couple of notches. Thanks, Matt Rhule. That's next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, hello, everybody. Happy Friday, Mailbag Friday here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Connor Happer here from 1620 The Zone in Omaha, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. We're just a little over a week away from the Husker games, which is now starting to smell a little bit more like a spring game all of a sudden.
It's kind of weird. We just mentioned the other day about how the Husker games is set to take place after the transfer portal closes, and I guess Matt Rhule figured that out too and made some changes. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But let's we have a lot of questions from you all, and apparently a lot of hard work and effort working behind the scenes on question asking from you all. We'll get to that as we go on throughout the show today as well. But let's start with Lawrence and Kozad. Where are we at right now with the offseason hype meter? Mitch, you mentioned this in the cold open there. Where are we at with the offseason hype meter? How hype is it?
Well, I think if we were at like a 4 going into the 12th practice of the spring, when the day ended yesterday, it might be at like a 5.5 or a 6, because Matt Rhule said during his 25 plus minutes with the media on Thursday that, quote, "This is the team I've been waiting for."
Yeah, that was the line. That was the line.
It's funny how you can talk for a half hour and like 4 seconds becomes the thing that everyone's going to remember in August, September, October, November, December.
Yeah, and he doubled down too, and he wasn't talking about, and he clarified, like he wasn't talking about, this team's going to win the national championship or whatever it is, but
it doesn't really matter.
Right. Just as far as how they work and stuff like that. Like he mentioned it in the context of, they were doing some sort of non-contact work, like whatever light stuff. And Dane Key was like, "Hey coach, can we hit, or can we go live?" And he mentioned that with a couple guys. And that's when he said the line of, "This is the team I've been waiting for." I think you're right, Mitch. It doesn't matter. And that's, I don't know that it ticked up in hype that much. I guess we'll see what happens over the summer. Like maybe the things that move the meter nowadays are less so the coaches talking and saying whatever they're going to say about their team. Obviously that helps, but maybe it's more about, the football stuff nowadays. And I think we've gotten some answers this spring on that as well. So I think it has moved up, but we'll see where we're at once we get clear of the spring game.
With 3 practices left, it's been a largely positive spring. And I say that, and somebody might say it's always like that. But there are springs where you have significant injuries, or you have coaches where you can read between the lines and sense that maybe they're not so sure about this spot or this player. And this one's going according to script in a lot of ways, not with the punting situation. We talked about that yesterday on the podcast. We'll get to that here in a couple of minutes. But first, let's address in question number 2 from John in Sioux Falls. He says, "Why did Matt Rhule change his mind about the spring game?"
I think
let's say what happened first.
Yeah. So Matt Rhule said yesterday in his media availability that there is going to be some live football at the spring game, and he talked about who is going to play in this live portion, and it's basically a not him. He will not be playing in the live portion. Oh. It's basically people who are fighting to make the roster. And he characterized it as, maybe people who won't have a chance to play football in front of people anymore. And so I think what happened was like all of this and all the landscape of college football and guys jumping in the transfer portal, and like I think all that stuff kind of just bubbled up and hit them all at once. Sounds like a couple nights ago. And I think what you saw yesterday at his press conference was like an emotion. He was kind of emotional. And so he was just like, screw this. We're going to give these guys a chance to go because they've earned it. He talked about Jacob Bauer, who's not going to participate in this spring game. And he's like, that guy goes out and plays his butt off every day and he doesn't get anything, like he kind of rhetorically asked himself that question. So I think he was kind of, he kind of feels bad for these guys that he's going to have to tell at the end of spring ball, or has already told prior to spring ball, that they're basically not going to be here when fall camp rolls around.
I don't know if you listened to the whole press conference, but if you did, you maybe could tell by a question at the end that I was confused about Bauer, and I thought he was talking about Rowdy Bauer.
Bauer, yeah.
There's another Bauer,
yeah,
because Rhule had gone on about Bauer, and he did say Jacob the first couple of times, or the first reference, but I was like, are we talking about the running back turned safety here, that you're all of a sudden turning into a starter? Like, what's going on? But no, it's Jacob Bauer, who was kind of a preferred walk-on from California a couple years ago in Rhule's first class of newcomers. And he's apparently had a great spring. I mean, gone from not having made the 110-man preseason camp invite list last August to now being too good to play with the twos in practice. Yep. So you got linebackers who can do all kinds of stuff, new guys, returning players, and Jacob Bauer is going to be in that mix somehow with the package that John Butler creates. So that's really encouraging that there are players like that out there that we've not heard anything about this spring. For me, the big thing with Rhule and making the change to the spring game is that college football's changing like daily. And a couple of days ago, they were under the impression, based on the reports and the feedback that people were getting out of the House settlement, that there was going to be a grandfather clause and there was going to be some relief for players on the roster who were returning, who were on your roster like now, before the settlement kicks in July. And now, as of 18 hours ago or 20 hours ago, Matt Rhule says, I think it's just going to be 105. Yep. Like, that's the information I'm getting. It's going to be a hard 105. You can have a few players who are injured that you bring along, but there's no grandfather situation going. So he felt very compelled to give the players who may not be at Nebraska beyond next Saturday an opportunity to put things on tape one more time. And if you want to, be critical and say he's wishy-washy and he's doing this and he's changing his mind and he's flipping and he's flopping, like, look at the context, look at the world around him in college football, because it's changing daily as well. So you have to be willing to adapt. And this is an adaptation that they made. You're not going to see the starters out there, but it's going to be an opportunity really for the players whose future is uncertain to have a final moment or do something to enhance their opportunity moving into the 25 season.
So I think this is a really good place to bring up Scott and Ontario's comment about Jack McCallister, because this is, and I'll read the question in a second. I think this is part of the reason that Rhule felt kind of emotional over the last week or so about all these changes. So Scott in Windsor, Ontario writes in, hello, Canada. Mitch and Connor, Jack McCallister recently announced he was entering the transfer portal due to a change of circumstances. I have entered the transfer portal, quote, is what he said. McCallister had strong punting stats last season. Are we to assume the change in circumstances to be the rapid development of the backup punter, Camden Cook? By the way, I plan to see your Royals in town to play my Tigers this weekend. Okay, well, can you tell them to hit the ball?
Win.
Hit the baseball, score some runs. That would be my suggestion. But no, it's not that. Rhule laid it out pretty well yesterday, and we have it in a clip here if you want to play that right off the
right. So this clip comes after Rhule explaining that they've made a philosophical change with the punting situation. And Scott's question came in before this Rhule explanation. He sent the question in on Wednesday night after the McCallister news dropped on social media. Rhule, before the clip that we cut, explained how they called in Jack last week, and Mike Eckler met with him, and then Rhule met with him and told him, we're going to a rugby-style punting situation, which is what Eckler used at Tennessee. And you can stay, but you're probably not going to have a spot. You're probably not going to have a spot in our lineup. Like, you can be on the team, you can be on the 105, but it might be best for you to look at your options if you want to be a starting punter. And then here's what Rhule said after that.
So, he asked if he could continue to stay and be at practice because he wants to finish what he started, which is just the caliber of person we're talking about. Who's out there today. But I know he posted something on social media, and I know immediately when that happens, normally there's, hey, why would you ever want to leave here? And so I just want to be very clear that this is a young man who I feel terrible about the circumstances. When I met with him, he was so professional, so, obviously deeply disappointed. As he said, Coach, I'd love to stay here. I love the culture. I love everything that I'm experiencing, but I feel like I probably need to go look for something. I told him I don't know if I would have handled it as well as he handled it. And so I don't feel good about how it happened. I don't feel good about the situation. I don't feel good about it, but it is what's in the best interest of us moving forward, schematically and special teams wise.
Yeah. You don't generally hear a coach own a situation quite like that. He later went on to say that he hoped that his 3 kids, when they get older, would be able to show the same kind of character and class that Jack McCallister has in handling this and getting recruited to a place and then being told 3 months later, we're changing the system and the position that you play. There's a follow-up to this from Flounder on YouTube, who said, what happened to the belief that good coaches adapt and put their players in positions to succeed? This is not about like having a linebacker when you come into a school and saying, we're going to play to your strengths. Like, Mike Eckler has an entirely different philosophical system that he wants to use in punting because of the rules being different in college versus the NFL that allow the punt coverage to release and go downfield and cover the punt before the ball is kicked. In the NFL, you can't leave the line of scrimmage until the ball's kicked. In college, the punter can roll out if he's adept at that, rugby style, kick it like Jackson Ross did for Eckler the last 2 seasons at Tennessee, and presumably you can cover the kick better. So it's a little different than like having a running back and fitting your system to his style. This is an entire portion of the special teams that they're going a direction that's different from what suits Jack McCallister.
Yep. And no doubt, kudos to Rhule for having those tough conversations, but he definitely feels bad about it. I think, which is sort of bubbled up and led to what you've, heard him talk about yesterday. Like you said, he talked for a long time. All right. Plenty more questions from you all. A little more on hype. How about that when we return here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast?
Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? I did not. Whoa. Turn any TV in your gaming and entertainment into your gaming and entertainment hub with the Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Amazon Fire TV delivers endless entertainment with 4K streaming. Watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. There is so much at your fingertips. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd generation, and Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. That's Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started.
All right, welcome back. If that's true, I have like 6 Xboxes, which is which is amazing, fantastic.
I want to go check this out.
Check out that deal. All right,
So glad I bought that $400 console for the holidays.
Back to the question from you all. We skipped over Nick in Colorado Springs here, so let's go back to that. With a tighter lid than ever over the program, i.e., limited practice availability, no documentary style, chasing 3 style videos, practice clips where the clips are extremely short. It's like the end of a Mission Impossible trailer. Kind of is. You're looking for Easter eggs in there. Do you feel like they're keeping quiet the long-awaited waking of the sleeping giant of Nebraska, or do you predict more of a marginal improvement, i.e., 8-ish wins? Feel free to answer with your hearts rather than objectively as reporters / media people. GBR.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that the reason that they've gone to more of a closed off view of the program is because they know that this team is going to win 10 games and they just don't want to let the rest of the world know until next fall. This was a strategic kind of decision that was made, I think, even during the season last year, to kind of be done with a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, which is unfortunate because that stuff was great. And it was fantastic to see the locker room speeches and a lot of the lead up to the big games and what was going through the minds of Nebraska players. I think after the Colorado deal, after they put so much out there and it kind of worked, it really did work. Like, it helped get the team motivated and we got to see all of that. But then that was kind of like the peak of the season in many ways, maybe until the Wisconsin game. I think Matt Rhule made a decision to just say, all right, like, we've done this for a couple of years. This is helping get the program back off the mat. And now we're going to go and do what's more comfortable for the coach. And there was more talk about that, even beyond what he said about having the team that he's been waiting for during his media availability on Thursday. Some of that we'll probably get more into next week about how Rhule feels the only reason that he's here right now is just to win, and like doing things beyond winning has got other coaches fired in the past. So I think it's more about that. I think it's just more about doing what's comfortable for him. And that's what you're seeing this offseason as opposed to the majority of the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's calculated in that way. I don't think it's calculated in like, hey, we're trying to hide the fact that we think we're gonna be really good this year. They thought that, they're always gonna say that they think they're gonna be pretty good and they like the team and stuff like that. So no, I don't think that has anything to do with it. But I don't think it's a bad thing that we are just getting little tiny, small windows into what they're doing. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. It's been, while I think you feel positive about the direction that things have moved this spring, I think it's been a quiet spring. And no major things that are happening or moving or anything like that.
Yeah, so, really, this punting thing is like the first real wrench in the screenplay or in the blueprint. Yeah.
And I don't think that's purposeful. Like, it's just kind of the way it's gone. And that's, like I said, that's not a bad thing. I don't think it has any impact on how many games they do or don't win this fall.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Should we get to the next one? This one comes
Scott
from, go ahead.
Let's go, Scott. If you believe in parentheses, I think correctly, that Emmett Johnson is not a top 20 back in school history, what kind of year would he need to have to find himself as one of the top 20 running backs in school history when it's all said and done? Have you looked at the list of like the all-time rushers in Nebraska history?
Yes.
And what their yards?
Right
now. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now too.
You're like 63rd. Now, his career's not over.
Yeah.
But he's got 1,009 yards. He ranks 1 yard. Hey, with 1 yard, Emmett Johnson will equal the rushing output in his career of Frank Solich from 1963 to 1965.
I mean, 1,000 yards in 3 years.
Emmett's run for 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, you're going to have a really, really difficult time convincing me that he's in any of the all-time conversations, regardless
No.
of what happens this year.
He's behind the likes of Ben Gregory, Jerry Brown, David Horn. I mean, Craig Johnson, Imani Cross. I'm continuing to go up. I'm now in the
Cross
30s.
Is ahead of him. Wow.
Oh, way ahead of him. He's got 1,600 yards. Look, okay. So if Emmett Johnson can get into basically to get anywhere, even in the conversation of being a top 10 back at Nebraska, and you have to be careful because some of these rushers are quarterbacks, and we're just talking about running backs. Like Eric Crouch ranks 4th all time. Taylor Martinez is 9th all time. So to get in the conversation of being a top 20 back, you need to be around like 2,500 yards. In your career.
Oh, okay.
So if he has a 15, not next season. So if he has a 1,500 yard season, let's just say he has a 1,300 yard season next year, which would make him one of the best in the Big Ten. Then I think you start thinking about it. Then I think you start talking about him in that category. Is Jeff Kinney a top 20 back in Nebraska history? I think a lot of people would say yes, in part because he played on national championship teams. He's a name that I know, a lot of people know. 50 years after his career, he ranks 23rd all time in Nebraska history. Emmett Johnson would need a 1,300 yard season to get into Jeff Kinney territory. So that's what I think. 1,300 to 1,500 yards this season, to answer your question, Scott. That would get him in the conversation.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't even know. That question is this a conversation that's going on right now? Like, are people talking about Emmett Johnson being like one of the dudes?
I think people are getting caught up in how good he is. And I think you look at him and you think he can be really good, but the reality is that he hasn't done it yet over an extended period of time. We've gotten blowback when we've suggested before that he's not good enough to bank your entire rushing hope, put your entire rushing hopes, like everything on his back. When we've said that, we've heard from people who say, no, Emmett's the man. And maybe he is the man, but we still need to see that.
Yeah. One more here in this segment. This is from Shane. How is the transfer portal affecting NFL front office evaluations, especially quarterbacks? 2024 draft quarterbacks that transferred during their college careers: Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Spencer Rattler, Michael Penix. Joe Milton. Does this mean that Dylan Raiola should transfer to better his draft? I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, this is not a serious question. I don't think every quarterback pretty much transfers. Like, look at the guys in the draft class this year: Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders. They all transfer. Dylan Raiola. No, it has no impact on where or how you're going to get drafted. It's just what quarterbacks do today in the world of college football. But Nebraska's hoping that Dylan will be the exception, that he'll stay at one school for 3 or 4 years and then follow these quarterbacks into the draft.
Okay, we still have plenty more from you guys, so we'll go rapid fire when we come back and finish out a Friday show here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast.
Back with you on this Friday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer. It is cold outside this morning. We had some storms come through, canceled baseball games, baseball practices. I was outside when the lightning started around the Sarpy County, West Sarpy County, Gretna area last night. So that was whatever. It's springtime, and now it's cold. So
sad.
Not happy about that. Let's go to Vince. Vince, our friend Vince in Napa. He says, "Happy Easter, fellas. Happy Easter." And he says, "Happy birthday in heaven to my father, Joe." Heartfelt thoughts there. "Thank you for always giving me time on your podcast. I wore out my remote Tuesday between watching Nebraska Creighton, Giants Phillies in that Cackamanie NBA play-in tournament. Husker baseball has been mostly disappointing, but hopefully they can salvage the season with a positive finish, a la football and men's basketball. But to my knowledge, baseball does not have the equivalent to the Pinstripe Bowl or Crown Tournament. This won't be a popular take among the anti-Jasker crowd, but while I was happy to see the Huskers beat Creighton, it doesn't make or break my season as a fan. I'm a diehard San Francisco Giants fan, but Creighton is not the LA Dodgers, whom I have loathed since birth. Very nice. The Blue Jays are no different to me than the Tampa Bay Rays. They are neither here nor there. Am I in the minority with my thoughts? If so, I'm quite proud.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know that it like makes or breaks people's season to beat Creighton or lose to Creighton at things. And I don't think that like it's a super white hot passion. I think that the rivalry, quote unquote, is like it crops up because they play each other in multiple sports every year, and there's the intermingling of fans, and so like it's just so these people have access to each other, right? Creighton fans have access to Nebraska fans and vice versa. And then of course, when they all gather together in the fall, like, you know, there's Creighton fans in the stands. So like, I think there's, you know, there's a lot of that going on. It's just kind of the access that they have getting under each other's skin. It's a fan driven rivalry.
I don't really feel it burning all that hot right now. So, I mean, it's there, it's fine, but, you know, there's not like a College World Series contender among these teams, and you know, let's talk in basketball season.
Yeah.
From Nathan in Kansas. Oh, this is good. Nathan's the man. Continued appreciation for you guys putting out daily Husker content. We are deep in the off season, and this definitely helps scratch the itch. My question for the week, as it stands today, what would you predict is the starting group of defensive linemen to be on August 28th in Arrowhead Stadium? I also come bearing another gift. Last week, it was Raiola's infamous sighting at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. This week, I had some free time and took the liberty of going back through the transcripts of each mailbag since its inception. And have created a Locked On Nebraska map with pins from where each listener has written in, like you guys suggested in last week's show. We did talk about that. So far, there are 23 total cities across 12 states in Canada. Obviously, not everyone includes their location. But I would encourage listeners to give a city state so they can be added in the future. Nathan has volunteered to continue keeping up with the map. If you're watching on YouTube, here's the map right now. So you can see we're pretty well represented in the midsection of the country. There's Vince out there in the Bay Area. Yeah. So good job. We got the Canadian representation. See, is there by Detroit with Windsor, Ontario. Love it. Yeah, thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, I am flabbergasted. Sorry about that. I'm flabbergasted. Excellent work. I guess we should probably answer his question. Starting defensive line. Yeah. I think you got it. Like Van Poppel, Judy, Lenhart.
That's what it is.
Winery, that and Keona Davis. Like they're all going to be out there. I think they'll play a bunch of guys.
Yeah, and Nathan even suggests, he kind of answered his question in the question. He said he would lean Van Poppel, Judy, and Lenhart with Winery and Davis coming on in more pass rushing situations. I would agree with you. We heard from Keona Davis on Thursday after Matt Rhule finished up. Justin Evans and Keona Davis were on the stage in front of the media, and Justin Evans, big dude, he's undergone a transformation. Does not look like the same guy. Like he's gotten just like his shoulders are big, and I don't know. I'm starting to buy the hype on him a bit. That
he trimmed up a little bit. Like,
I'm buying what Dana and Matt Rhule are selling about him being a legit center, legit Big Ten center. And despite like the assurances from Donovan Raiola that nothing's been decided, I think this one's been decided. Justin Evans has known, he said, since the day that Ben Scott left the program in December, that this is what he was going to do. So, yeah.
You always get the truth from the players. But
Keona Davis and Winery, I think they're gonna get playing time.
This is from Derek. Question for Mitch: how long did it take to get all that dirt cleaned out of your face, hair, nose, ears, etc. after a day of baseball in Gretna on Saturday? Signed a 10U coach that needed a good 30-minute shower.
Okay, so the hair, not really a problem. I was wearing a hat, and not much hair up there to clean dirt from. So Saturday was a very windy day last Saturday. I'll be out there again tomorrow, Saturday, by the way. Got a double header. Won't be in Gretna. We'll be in the Millard area, I think. But I made sure that our players, there was a game going on before us, and I made sure that our players, which we normally do, a little bit against the grain. We take the first base dugout, like the Royals, at home. because as the first base coach, I don't want to have to run around the back of home plate to go coach the base, and I can communicate with the dugout while I'm coaching first.
Nice.
So the wind was coming out of the south on Saturday, and in the setup of our field, it was at my back, so I wasn't getting it in my teeth, in my eyes, and things like that. Helped us. I think it helped the team's morale to not have the wind blowing in our face for most of the game, unless you were standing on second or third base.
Well executed.
So yeah, it was it wasn't that bad. It wasn't terrible. I was out on the 2 days prior to that on Thursday and got much more of a dirt sandwich. But Derek, if you have the opportunity to position yourself so that the wind is at your back, I would suggest you do that with your 10U team.
All right, John in Iowa. Just an idea this time. Might already be settled by your next mailbag session, but I think it'd be cool if the powers that be say that all players in their last year of eligibility and have played their entire career at the same school are not counted against the 105. It might be cool, but it ain't happening.
Yeah, I like the idea. And that would help you probably get an extra 15 or, well, probably not even that. Like at the most, more like 8 to 10 players, but it's not happening.
It'd be cool to reward the guys who have, stuck around their entire career. Maybe there's an idea there, like you should be incentivized to stay at the same place.
Get some extra rev share.
Yeah. Maybe there's something that's, a bonus that's buried in there.
It could get longevity bonuses, like retention bonuses. That's not necessarily a wild idea.
That's interesting.
But as far as impacting the 105, no, it's until the next twist and turn arrives in that storyline. It sounds like they're going straight 105.
And finally, from Chip, I was couch coach explaining to my 8th grader that the left side defensive end is where teams generally put their most disruptive defensive lineman, referred to as edge rusher. Dayton Raiola's commitment has me wondering about left-handed quarterbacks. Does a left-handed quarterback fundamentally change these paradigms on your offense and the opponent's defense? I think so, right? It just depends on how you want to play it, but everything kind of flips over, or there's still a comfortability factor with left and right tackle and how you're going to do that stuff. But yeah, I think so.
Let's bring Steve Young into the pod to answer a question. I'm thinking about left-handed quarterbacks like Michael Vick, Boomer Esiason, Steve Young.
It's not easy for a left tackle to just immediately flip over and be a right tackle just because the quarterback's left-handed. That's not easy. But if they feel like they could do it and you have some time to mentally prepare for it, maybe you can. I don't know.
Yeah, Chip's asking about the defense, but I think the bigger impact is on the offense, because the ball's spinning the other direction too when it comes out of their hands, and your receivers get used to catching it a certain way, and so your receivers have to make an adjustment, and your best tackle, the blind side of the quarterback, is going to be on the protecting the blind side is going to be on the right side. Yeah, with the defense, they may switch and bring their top pass rusher. Depending on the scheme, you've got an edge rusher on either side. So I don't know that there's a whole lot more.
It's scheme dependent on the defensive side of the ball. Like, right, you could bring pressure from anywhere. And in some schemes, like on one side, you're going to have a guy that's just going to kind of hold people up and be a little bit bigger and play against the run. And on the other side, maybe you'll have the rusher, or maybe you'll have that guy stand up as a linebacker. Like defensively, it's kind of like, it's way more positionless, right? You can kind of just put guys in places and have them run wherever they're going to run. Offensively, obviously, you can't do that, especially on the offensive line. So that might be my answer, I guess.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens when Dayton Raiola shows up on campus next year, and you have 2 Raiolas throwing the ball in practice, and how much that impacts the receivers and the backs and the tackles and such. But that's a year away, and that's it for the Locked On Nebraska podcast today. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen. For your second listen, it's almost here. Go check out the Locked On NFL Draft podcast with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez as your favorite collegiate players. Get ready for the next level. Get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.